Thank you for being here. I wish to apologize to many people and their affiliates. And so last week I thought that policy, sector-specific strategies, etc. I thought that the country would have welcomed that treat where the head of state would feel it necessary at his press conference so that you are aware of what we are doing globally in the climate area, in food security, and though they don't get repeated. So I have personally in the last week witnessed how the rumor mill started by Yarrow Dam and some of the other sideline dam. So I visited those communities. We set up a committee to work on a home improvement, say to them, to tell the people who are spreading the rumors in Lane Avenue, some of their operatives, that those who want to believe communities are now spreading the rumor on the ground. Oh, it's not government doing this. It is not government doing this. It is NGO money, NGO resources. By December of 2020, we started looking for a program to certify our forests because without international certification, with this transforming this level of deceitfulness, even at us, that we are borrowing too much. They've come back to the old team. When you listen to them, they don't have much to say. But we are borrowing too much. Pointed out there that the stock of debt was over 900% of GDP. So that meant our debt, the value of your home. And two, that you have to use every month more than 100% of your salary to pay the debt. An IMF program in the 90s. Fast forward to today. Even before today, things. We paid back a substantial amount of debt. We got a lot of debts written off through an aggressive program that I personally led in many ways. And foreign is less than 25% of GDP, of which the bulk of it is the domestic debt, Secondly, we're spending about $31 billion to service that debt, which is about 7%, 7 to 8% of it was in the 90s, it was over 100% of revenue. Last year, it was less than 10% of revenue used to serve it. And we have one of the lowest debt to revenue servicing of the debt in the world. Most countries, we're over 100%, they're climbing up now. And we are now under 10% of revenue to service our debt. So one of the lowest in the world. So for to say characterize, and the PPP has managed almost from 90s to now, most of this period, except in the, so you recall Jordan talking about 900 million from the Petroleum Development Fund and all of that nonsense. So this has been one of the success policy that we have. Unlike APNU, we shun variable rate loans. So there are only two the last time I spoke to you. All of this oil money, and we're splurging everywhere else, everywhere in the country, including Glenlal. At one stage, you were saying, oh, you're not getting enough. A loan from Qatar for 350 million, which doesn't exist, not in our books. We have no loan from Qatar. The president said when he parliamentarians who sit there And I question whether they actually understand what happens in the budget process. And then they get a lot of useless articles coming. Now, at budget time, we said to this country, our total revenue is 500 in revenue. Now, the total revenue is $2.8 billion, of which $1 billion is oil money. But we have it, if you understand it. And that is this sort of ignorance. And the same thing with the NRF withdrawals. Understand what they're debating. And so, how much of our total budget, how much of it is for servicing the debt has grown now. Also, our future revenue, projected revenue, even from the oil and gas sector, 14 level when they were in office. So their borrowing was not going to build capital stock. The capital budget builds your schools, roads, highways, because that would only be able, if you look at the cost of infrastructure, and this is subsidized housing that we're basically providing to people. The cost of the infrastructure is very, very high. So then for the bridge itself, and then probably another 7-8 million for civil works to build the roads leading out of the area on both sides, the approaches, etc. That's what we can gas for the country at probably half of the price. Solving a problem, and the project pays back for itself over the long run. So although you take the debt now, you pay back. And so APNU can't claim the same thing, or the AFC. So when I got to take an economic lessons from Ramjatan, and basically bypass on numerous occasions, and many for his, imagine a country having to listen to that sort of thing. So that's what I want people to understand. Press conference. Kaichur News again had this thing. The management structure for the oil sector remains a mystery. And talking about it, made it clear that in the absence, a commission is not necessarily the governance structure. We have given it clearly in place that will operate in the absence of the Petroleum Commission, which in the future, not now, that somehow we don't have a structure for managing the sector. That's absolutely untrue. We have a structure for managing the sector and teams, etc. But that started again by some of the APNU operatives and their surrogates abroad, the Burke, the criminal Burke, and the others. So we saw that with Christopher Jones one time when he got the land in the back road area that displaced a family, an Afro-Guyanese family, Afro-Guyanese. And the people came to see me. So no doubt he knows this will be exposed. So suddenly he says, oh, government of Guyana will not include Afro-Guyana by criminality. But he's not here, so we can't go after him. And the people that he's trying to rob here in Guyana, they can't go after him on this issue. The president himself visited Madia several times. You contrast that with Granger. From the family membership, approach the government for help. And the president made it clear. It's not basically that they will assist. Pursuant to getting the assistance. But if the auditors, as the Attorney General pointed out, we have to have a paper trail too, the indigenous people. Their policy showed it in the past. The same Roysdale 4 didn't say a word when Amerindians were threatened if they thousands of them. Here they want to turn a tragedy against us. But we have worked with those families and we'll continue to work with them. And the commission sent from the government. They were in the care. They're saying that they, the care of the prison too. You should check if they got assent at that time from the government. Well, I didn't get the first one. And that purpose is to expand the productive capacity of this country. It's not overburdening the national capability. It's not to consume. And so we are clear about that. All of our borrowing is to expand productive capacity. So we knew once that is meant to fund it. It was a poor turnout too, and they drove around the city, but they were shaking down some businessmen of the APNU there. Now it's strange that APNU will put, in this case, particularly in this case, someone who had been back. And I wonder why. But this was the same individual who had some things to say about me at the rally launch. And I spoke about the town clerk having to intervene to block these sales. I saw a strange development a couple days ago that suddenly there's a private charge against the town clerk. And she was the one who was the humbug to them selling out the properties in the city. It was a strange thing 2 days ago I saw by APNU. So we have our 11 councillors will look out for any sale of the city properties. That's one. For them on their taxes. That has to go through a transparent process. And we're going to be fighting to ensure that there is either a policy that everyone can benefit for, but there'd be no negotiation, private sidebar kind of negotiation about rates and taxes, which used to be the norm and the source of collecting money. And thirdly, I got another big area for corruption in the cities with the market committee, that they shake down the vendors through the market committee. So we are looking at the accounts of the city to ensure that they don't get their design in there. But I heard that in fact some of the people for the rally, they are fearful they may get into trouble at the city council, where they've been shaking people down. They're known to do this. And Norton, having said publicly he didn't have money to contest the local government elections. Of course, it's a lie, because you don't need to spend a lot of money to contest local government. But I've asked already, people don't have any confidence in them, because if you could get your treasurer to write you 20 blank checks and not maybe siphon off into personal purposes. Yes, Dennis. Whether Ali will be the president into the Mohammed, or what the charges are, or the allegations are at this stage. No such official. The government of Guyana will act on this matter when the U.S. engages it officially, if it engages. Now, in that story, they made some allegations that the president's family is close to, as president of Guyana, and that the Mohammeds may be, that he is somehow acting in favor of the Mohammeds. President Ali for a long time. I knew him when he was a technical person at the Ministry of Finance. So I sent him as a regional planner when we had. He's always been one of the most, he's been the finance secretary of the party for a number of years, one of the most senior persons in us. He comes from a long history of a family that has been in the struggle. His grandmother with Chedi Jagan in the early days, in his elections. He worked hard. We campaigned as a party throughout this country. And from the engagement with Exxon through this consortium, because of links with the government of Guyana, with their bidding process. Absolutely nothing to do with their bidding process. ExxonMobil went through a tender. There were several. The government of Guyana had no say, nor did it influence the contracts being given. Thirdly, I heard from some because that's all rumors. So let me make it clear. Government of Guyana had absolutely no influence on Exxon. In fact, we will not do it because then we don't want to be beholden like Trotman and the Apnu were because of favors to any oil. Then the story goes on to speculate again that Exxon may be getting its permits from the government of Guyana because of the Mohammeds' perceived close contact with the president. Now, what are the permits? And the permits to the development permits, like Payara, Yellowtail, etc. Technical specifications, and we made it clear we want to develop the industry. We have not been shy about that. We want to develop it as quickly as possible. That's a policy. Hired international specialists to review every one of those applications, basically policy-wise, of this sector. Not a single day did Irfan Ali call me or the Mohammeds could ever call me and say, on their behalf or anyone's behalf, he's a stickler for process in these matters. And I know because I am in charge policy-wise of this area. So that's another speculation too. All of these, a ton of speculation. 5 sources, 3 sources, single day. I see people, some that I don't want to see even. I meet them out there that hung you for things. Some of them have long criminal records. Busy conning another family out of New York and using our names. He's not stopped. Next time I'll bring his picture, and people go to meet the president all the time. It doesn't mean they get special treatment. And this is a small country. The point I'm making, it's a small cities that the same people go to. That's why at one stage I stopped going to this cocktail circuit. It's the same people you see over and over. 3 sets of people. Roger Khan, Tamesh Jagmohan, and the Mohammeds, all claiming to be close to the PPP and fighting, and they had some little fight. The same lobbying firm that we were using, Elizabeth Harper, the permanent secretary, met with them. None of this. And so to bring President Ali into this, of course, give the article higher profile globally. But it...
Of course, I would assume that the investigation
too, and we've always worked, this party, to protect the interests of our country. Our country. The whole, absolutely right. And I saw the GHK Lal saying something, your analyst, and I gather your part, he owns part of the Demerara Waves. I don't know if it's true, but that I've seen the rumors too. Like, okay, all right. So he's not part of your program, but I saw him reflecting. It's absolutely true that we have noticed, especially the last couple of years, a significant deviation. And with the story coming out from Brazil, out north through a legal route, now we're realizing that it's actually our goal going into Brazil. And obviously the reasons. So there is an ongoing investigation into that, and we're going to take tough measures against people, because we're going to track also not being officially notified before that all of this gold was going into Brazil. In fact, we found it strange that our gold would go there. We were thinking that Venezuelan gold was coming here, but it doesn't seem so. Seems. Anything else? Okay. Yes, go ahead. Doesn't know about our policy making or our plans for the sectors. I can sit and tell you behind our policies in every single area, something that APNU and AFC have been incapable of doing. Incapable. We've defined it in every single area, whether it's currency. And so that is a blip, and that goes down back. For me, so far, it's not a structural issue of a major than, in this case, keeping the exchange rate constant. So that is a good thing. Not that the economy has overheated a bit, because we did have an increase in of labor, because they're, especially the export, the tradable sectors. So I don't see it as a fundamental issue. I'd look into it. Oh, the point I was coming, right? So on that issue, he would have the information. It's not the core issues. I deal with everything of substance on the oil and gas sector. Even when I said, like, the contracts, you would read my name in the press conference. I didn't want to be in part of nothing of our press releases. It just taints me when I feel slimy when I'm part of our press releases. To find something, oh, we're not getting enough information and interaction with the government. What interaction with her could you have? Because the issue, yes, please. You want me to? All right, I will undertake to get you a call from the minister. So you're getting referred to both, yes. All right, so you'll get a call. That's even serving you, the media now. Nazima Raghuwe wouldn't get that treatment if she was in the US. To call the reporter, right? Special treatment for Starbuck News there. Okay. Yes, please. You want some special treatment? No? So he gets crazy, yeah. But he's been peddling a lot of nonsense too, you know, a lot of gibberish, a lot of crazy things. WhatsApp. So sometimes I'll post him an article and it trip him off a bit. Post him back an article from some of the other newspapers when they rebut the nonsense he talks about. Yeah. Yeah, because they're, you know, after the main thing ended, then they have that. But I don't know, that should be one of those big contracts too, right? Isn't it available? Okay, well then I'll check with them why. Because if they have an agreement there. I don't think it's a production agreement. Yes, yes, yes.
These large-scale companies, are there any, are there the mines also or people responsible with around one-third their operations?
Coming from Suriname, and they were staying at the Princess Hotel and doing this, but they had Guyanese who were operating on their behalf and then paying through Guyana their suppliers because they have issues of not getting foreign currency there, the Trinidad business. Guyana, how much of it gets split and goes into Trinidad and how much actually comes here. But a full payment is made from Guyana. So there are lots of those issues too, that were issues.
Another question. Just give me a final question. I know you might want to say that you've done it professionally. Expenses from the one of the employers and suggestions said that actual ship rate right now is between 1 million to 1.5 million US for the ship rate. And
Precisely what the audit would do. That's what the audit does. The audit looks at industry standards and then see if they deviate from industry standards. Maybe a premium of 0.5%. And they're charging, like for the insurance, maybe 0.8%. Remember, there is a question where what the related company had provided the insurance bond and all of these issues for the EPA permit, and so they look at the premium. So that is some of the those are some of the things that we have to look for in the audit itself. On the bill itself, so there are a lot of comments that came that they as part of the auction, the requirement now that we're introducing is that the penalty is very high. It's almost equivalent to the cost of the development plan that you have not pursued. So for taxation side, because the law dealt with a series of taxes too, like waivers, but our concern is blanket waivers. We don't want to give a blanket waiver, like when it meant to go to Parliament shortly. Now I saw Patterson saying they had comments, but they will share the comments in the on the floor. Like the chamber, you get to talk a lot of bills without being punished for it. You know, a lot of nonsense, and you get protected because you can't be sued. No, have you considered this? I'm just speculating wildly. That Trotman's only purpose for bringing out that book was to say he didn't commit any fraud. I made an error. Exxon could tell him not to say anything at that time. Maybe Exxon told him to say this now. Maybe Exxon told him to write this book. Maybe they wrote it for him. I'm just speculating.